The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, folded too crisply and stamped with an authority that felt heavier than the paper itself. I'd just finished feeding the horses, hands still smelling of hay and leather, when I saw the HOA logo and felt my jaw tighten. At 68, you get a sense for trouble before it knocks. I stood at the kitchen counter, opened the envelope, and read the words twice just to be sure they were as ridiculous as they sounded. My barn, the one I'd rebuilt board by board after retiring, had been declared unsafe and in violation of community standards. They demanded immediate closure and threatened fines. I laughed at first, not a chuckle, but a real belly laugh, because the barn had passed every inspection imaginable. It was cleaner than most people's garages and sturdier than the house I grew up in. I'd built it with my son over 2 summers, measuring twice, cutting once, following state code down to the last bolt. Still, the letter was signed by her. Everyone knew her name, the woman who prowled the neighborhood with a clipboard and a sense of purpose that never seemed to include kindness. I walked the property that afternoon, running my hand along the smooth beams, remembering the sweat and pride that went into every inch. The barn wasn't just a structure. It was where my grandchildren learned to brush a horse, where quiet mornings felt earned, where life slowed down the way it's supposed to. The idea that someone who'd never set foot inside could declare it unsafe lit a fire in me I had felt in years. The next HOA meeting was standing room only. Neighbors whispered as I took my seat. She sat at the front, lips pursed, eyes sharp. When my turn came, she spoke for me, listing concerns about structural integrity, outdated wiring, and supposed complaints. I stood calmly and asked one question. Have you ever been inside my barn? She didn't answer directly. That was when I knew this wasn't about safety, it was about control. Within a week, I was issued a formal violation notice. I appealed, submitting blueprints, permits, photos, and prior inspection reports. Each time, the response came back cold and dismissive. The barn was unsafe. Period. Friends told me to let it go, that fighting the HOA wasn't worth the stress at my age. But this wasn't about winning. It was about being right, and about not being bullied out of the life I'd built. So I made a call. I contacted the state and requested an independent inspection. The woman on the phone listened patiently, then scheduled a visit. When the day came, the inspector arrived in a plain truck, clipboard tucked under his arm. He shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, "Let's take a look." For 2 hours, he examined everything. He climbed ladders, checked wiring, measured beams, and even complimented the craftsmanship. I didn't hover, I let the work speak for itself. When he finished, he smiled and said, "This is one of the safest private barns I've seen. Whoever built this knew what they were doing." The official report arrived 3 days later. Approved. Fully compliant, exceeded standards in several areas. I made copies and sent one to the HOA. Silence followed. No apology, no acknowledgement, just another notice, scheduling a hearing. The hearing was held in a small municipal room that smelled faintly of old carpet and coffee. She was there, confident as ever, with her stack of papers. When it was my turn, I handed the board the state inspector's report. I watched as expressions shifted, pages were turned. Murmurs spread. She tried to speak, to reinterpret the findings, but the chairperson held up a hand. "This report is from the state," he said. "It supersedes our concerns." Her face tightened. I felt a calm wash over me, not triumph, but relief. The board voted unanimously to dismiss the violation. They also amended their process, requiring first-hand inspection before future declarations. I gathered my papers and left quietly. That evening, I sat in the barn as the sun dipped low, the horses shifting softly in their stalls. I thought about how easily something precious can be threatened, and how important it is to stand firm when you know you're right. Age teaches you many things, but one of the most valuable is knowing when to push back. In the weeks that followed, neighbors stopped by more often. Some thanked me, others shared their own stories. The barn stayed open, just as it should be, filled with life and purpose. If this story meant something to you, please take a moment to like and subscribe so more people can hear stories like this. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today?